Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. I want to start out with a land acknowledgement. We want to acknowledge that we're gathered on the traditional lands of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, the Huron-Wendat, and the Wyandot Nations. I'm Andria Barrett, the NDP candidate in Brampton South, and I'm here with my colleagues, Sarah Singh, NDP candidate for Brampton Centre, Garathan Singh, NDP candidate for Brampton East, Sandeep Singh, NDP candidate for Brampton North, Navjeet Kaur, NDP candidate for Brampton West, and Wasim Ahmed, NDP candidate for Mississauga Malton. We are all excited to be here today and to connect with everybody across Brampton and Peel region. People in Brampton and people in Peel feel left behind. They know that they can count on Andrea as the next leader of the government because they see their priorities and their values in her. At the doorsteps, I'm hearing that it's time for a change. I'm hearing a lot about healthcare, and they believe in what the NDP can do. They see their priorities. They believe that we say we're going to do what we're going to do. People tell me that they trust her because she's focused on what matters most. She says what she means, and she acts on it before, during, and she will do so after the election. They know she goes to bat for working folks just like my parents, working class people, everyday families, working to make lives better and more affordable. All of us are really, really proud to stand with her. And in 22 days, here's the next Premier of Ontario, Andrea Horwath.
Thanks so much, Andrea. I'm thrilled to be here with all of the amazing candidates in Brampton for the NDP. We're here to talk about something that's extremely important for people here in Ontario. Our auto insurance system in this province is broken. Together, we can fix it and put $660 a year back into people's pockets. And in places like Brampton, that number is around $2,000. And we can do it by banning increases in auto insurance for the next 18 months, by banning postal code discrimination, and by putting together a commission that can provide us with a pathway to reduce auto insurance rates with a public system or a combination of public and private system by 40%. 40% reduction in the price of auto insurance for all Ontarians. Everybody is quite concerned about the cost of everyday living. The affordability of everyday life is going through the roof. Auto insurance costs are unfair in Ontario. We've known this for years and years and years. We have some of the lowest accident rates in the entire country, and yet we have the highest auto insurance premiums. We need to fix this, and we can fix this. We can fix the auto insurance system and make it fairer for everyone. Once and for all, we can fix auto insurance. And this election, instead of a premier who works for his buddies, you can have a premier who works for you. I'm prepared to take any questions that folks might have, and just want to reiterate how excited I am to finally be able to announce this project that we've been working on for a while. And I want to say thank you to MPPs like Garathan Singh and like Sarah Singh and like Tom Rakocevic. I guess candidates is the proper way to say it now, but we have had a number of advocates working in the legislature, Faisal Hassan as well, in the legislature to try to get first Liberals and then Conservatives to fix the auto insurance system, and they haven't done it. They've disappointed for a very long time. We can fix it once and for all, and we're looking forward to doing that. Thank you for all your hard work in that regard over the years.
We'll move to on-site questions first. We'll just ask journalists to line up at the mic. It'll be one question, one follow-up, starting with Mathieu Simard from Radio Canada.
Morning, Andrea. Can I get you to comment on PC candidate Stephen Lecce admitting to participating in a slave auction back when he was a student at Western University? Do you think he should be removed by the PC party?
This is something that is extremely troubling and very painful and hurtful for members of our Black community. And I have to say that our former Black Caucus members, the founders of our Black Caucus, put out a statement last night, and I stand by that statement 100%.
And my other question is on ODSP rates. A business professor has compared different policies and adjusted for inflation. He says your plan would still give people less money than Mike Harris' government did. Why wouldn't you raise it more?
We're looking at this issue very, very closely. We know that for years and years, 15 years of Liberal government, let me actually go back a little bit further than that, because you did mention the Mike Harris Conservatives. We know that Conservative cuts always hurt people, but the cuts to ODSP and social assistance back in the 90s was devastating. It really not only hurt people then, but then for 15 years, the Liberals didn't bother to fix it. And people became poorer and poorer and poorer. Toronto became the child poverty capital of Canada under the Liberals. And in the last 4 years, the Conservatives have continued to make things worse. So yes, we are committed to initially, with an initial increase of 20% of the rates, get people a little bit more money in their pocket. But we know that's not the end. It's the beginning. It's the beginning of acknowledging just the terrible circumstances that people have found themselves in for a very long time through no fault of their own, because governments have ignored them and treated them very, very badly. The whole system needs to be addressed, and we're committed to doing exactly that.
Next question comes from Aidan Chimanti from Queen's Park Briefing.
Hey, Andrea.
Hi, Aidan.
Just looking to follow up on the ODSP thing. All the three main parties have committed to raising it to a certain extent. The Greens are promising to double it, which would bring ODSP above the poverty line. You say this is an issue that's near and dear to your heart, and the 20% increase would kind of be just the start. I'm just wondering if you could talk a little bit more about your plans to potentially increase ODSP, or just what other supports.
No, I appreciate that. And no matter what the other parties are saying now, the Conservatives had 4 years. They had no interest whatsoever in helping people who were on ODSP to be able to pay the bills. Similarly, the Liberals had 15 years, and they completely abdicated any responsibility whatsoever for the most vulnerable folks in our communities to be able to keep a roof over their heads. And now, with the cost of everything going through the roof, with prices skyrocketing for literally everything from food to housing to gas, I mean, it's really quite bad out there, and so the ability for people to survive is completely reduced. Now, we know that the disability community put together a pretty robust plan before the last election, and in fact, we adopted every single one of their pieces of their plan, their recommendations, their pathway forward that they talked about then, and we will be absolutely engaging with them to get the update as to where they see things going, how to make those improvements. It's not about sitting at Queen's Park and making policies without engaging people. That's always been my way of doing things. It always will be my way of doing things, and I want to assure the disability community and advocates and activists around disability issues that you'll have a premier that sits with you, that listens to you, that works with you to fix what's been broken by the Liberals and Conservatives.
And so on the MPP allowance thing, so would the NDP, if elected as government, introduce laws preventing MPPs from receiving these allowances, or what otherwise are essentially wage top-ups? Yeah,
it's pretty... it's pretty disgusting, I think, to see what's happened here. We have MPPs who make a lot of money. I mean, it's not like MPPs are hurting in terms of the salaries that are provided at the legislature, and to see people who are donating their money to candidates to run for election, or donating to the riding association to keep that party's presence going year after year. To see that money then go to bonuses or payments out to these MPPs, it's pretty troubling. I don't think it should be happening, so we will ban that practice. They're not allowed to do that in the federal system. The House of Commons doesn't allow that kind of bonusing or payments. That doesn't happen federally. It won't happen in Ontario with an NDP government. I can guarantee you that. I also want to say, it really shows who Doug Ford is in it for and who the Conservatives are in it for. You know, their buddies make these big donations, and their MPPs benefit. It really is. It's the way that the Conservatives operate, and I don't think people appreciate that at all. In fact, I think they find it quite distasteful.
Next question comes from Liam Casey from the Canadian Press.
Hey, Liam.
Morning, Andrea. How do you think it's even remotely possible that you'll be able to get a 40% reduction in auto insurance rates when the Liberal government couldn't even get to 15?
They couldn't get to 15 because the insurance industry was in their pockets. That's why they couldn't get to 15, because they had no intention of getting to 15. We remember Kathleen Wynne wasn't telling the truth. She called it a stretch goal herself. They didn't try. What they did do, though, is they increased the costs for everyday drivers, and they reduced the benefits. They reduced the catastrophic injury benefit that people would be able to claim. That's not what they went backwards, actually. That's not what Ontarians need and want. When you see what's happening in other provinces, you know that it is possible in Ontario. The difference between the NDP and Liberals and Conservatives is they have really cozy relationships with the insurance industry, and that's what prevents them from putting the hammer down on the abuse that Ontario drivers are taking financially from that industry. There's just no way in the world that we can have rates that are twice that of our neighboring province in Quebec. They're literally paying half of what we pay annually on average. I mean, and if you're in some drivers, so they pay about $850 a year for insurance in Quebec. They have a mixed model, public and private. Here in Ontario, average is over $1,600 a month. Some people are paying over a year, $850 a year in Quebec. $1,600 a year on average here in Ontario, but some drivers are paying over $6,000 a year for insurance in Ontario. We have some great information that's been provided in the backgrounder to our press release that really shows that in places like Manitoba, Saskatchewan, British Columbia, all of those places have significantly lower rates than us. So we are going to have a commission that seriously looks at this. The Liberals weren't serious about it. They didn't want to, they didn't want to upset their buddies in the industry. The Conservatives have no interest in it whatsoever. They don't want to upset their buddies in the industry. What I want to do is fight for driving folks, fight for drivers, make sure that drivers know that there's a party that will form government and actually fight for you, not work for your buddies, but work for you. So we will have a commission, and as I said, immediately we're going to ban the postal code discrimination. We're going to ban any increases for the next 18 months while that commission puts together a plan, and they're going to look at exactly how these other provinces have been able to succeed in giving drivers a fair shake on their auto insurance rates. Some of that are pure public no-fault systems. As I said, some of those systems are like Quebec's, which is a mixed model. We'll also look at, are there things that we can do to do it within the existing system, but I'm guaranteeing the people of this province, we will reduce your auto insurance rates by 40%. We can do it. We will do it. Other provinces are already doing it and have been for many years. I can't tell you how excited I am to finally say to drivers, we can fix this. Together we can fix this.
Thank you. Can you give us a few more details on this 40% reduction? Like, when are you going to hoping to achieve this 40% reduction? What 40% relative to what? Like what, what number?
Sure. I appreciate that. Well, we are banning the rates now. So we're banning any increase on the rates now. So that means that'll be the baseline. Right, so if we're banning any increase now, we're going to get the commission in place, and that commission will provide us with the model that works best to achieve the 40% reduction. And I can't presuppose what that model is going to be because we need to do the homework, and we need people to sit on that body and do the work to get us to the model that works for Ontarians. Having said that, we have a time frame of an 18-month ban on any increases because we expect the commission to be able to get its work done in that time frame, so that within the 2 years of taking office, we'll be getting those rates down based on that model. And we're going to engage we're going to engage experts in the industry. We're also going to be engaging brokers, consumers. There's a lot of people that can be a part of that commission that can really get us to the goal that all drivers in this province want to see, which is a fair automobile insurance system that meets their needs, but also doesn't attack their pocketbook unfairly in the way that it has for so long.
Next.
Clarification on timeline.
Sure.
Would that be 2 years to the 40% reduction?
Well, there's going to be a ban on any increases. We're going to do the work to determine which model works best for Ontarians to achieve the 40%, and then we're going to immediately implement it. So it's going to take a little bit of time to get that information, but as soon as we have it, we're going to switch the model, and in 2 years' time, we'll be reducing people's auto insurance rates and getting that 40% reduction.
Next question comes from Richard Southern from City News.
Hey, Richard.
Hi, Andrea. Do you think the government should be telling private companies what rates they can charge their customers? Do you think that's a fair move?
Absolutely, I do. What's unfair is the auto insurance system in Ontario that's been gouging drivers for far too long, that's been basing their rates on their postal codes, on which neighborhoods they live in, as opposed to their driving records. We have an auto insurance system in this province where we have the fewest amount of accidents, the fewest lowest accident rates, and yet we have the highest insurance costs. There's just no rhyme or reason to what's happening here in Ontario in terms of insurance costs, and drivers need a break. You know, during 2020, the first year of the pandemic, people weren't driving so much, accidents weren't happening. The insurance industry hauled in over $3 billion of extra profits that year alone. It really is a racket here in Ontario, and I'm happy to say it. I think it's a racket. And so, yeah, I do think Ontario has a responsibility to provide insurance rates that are affordable, that families can afford. You can't drive a car in Ontario without insurance. And so if we are regulating the system of driving, then we should also be regulating and making sure that the requirements to be able to have a license to drive and to actually drive are also addressed. That's been a problem for a long time.
If you feel Ontarians have a right to a certain auto insurance rate, why are you not proposing starting a government-run insurance option, Andrea?
In fact, that might actually be one of the options that the Commission recommends. And that's clearly outlined in our press release and our background materials. The options are everything from completely public to a mixed model like Quebec to regulatory changes that allow a no-fault system as we kind of sort of have here to continue. But what we won't do is we won't make this a stretch goal. What we won't do is string people along and reduce the amount of insurance that they can, or the amount of payouts that they can get from insurance, while we're also increasing their rates, which is exactly what the Liberals and Conservatives have done. We won't do that. For a very, very long time, I've been hearing from people who have said, I can remember even in the last election campaign, I was in a different riding. I was in Humber River Black Creek with Tom Rakocevic, and someone in Tim Hortons approached me telling me their auto insurance story. And it was a young person who bought a used car, was very excited to finally get his license. He bought a used car. The used car cost him about $6,000 or $7,000, and he was proud of it. And then he tried to get insurance, and his insurance was higher than his car costs, and he had to sell the car. He couldn't put the car on the road because he couldn't afford the insurance. That shouldn't be happening to people in Ontario. So yes, we will, to get back to the question, Richard, we will absolutely be looking at a public model.
Next question comes from Colin DeMello from Global News.
Hi, Colin.
Hi, good morning, Ms. Horwath. If the government has the power to ban any increases in auto insurance rates, wouldn't the government also have the power to mandate a decrease immediately after you take office? I don't understand why you have to wait 18 months to do it.
Because what we want to do is change the system for good. This isn't a gimmick. We don't think that gimmicks are fair to Ontarians. There's a lot that's broken in Ontario, including our insurance system. And so gimmicks just just aren't where it's at for the NDP. We believe that we need to work hard to truly fix what's broken, and auto insurance is broken. And that's why we're saying to folks, give us 18 months with the Commission to figure out the best way to permanently fix the auto insurance system in Ontario so that Liberals can't undo it for their buddies, and so that Conservatives can't undo it for their buddies, so that drivers are the ones that finally get a fair shake in Ontario.
But you are saying, in fairness, though, that you will get a 40% reduction. It's just you're going to have to stick with us for a long time. You don't know what you're presupposing the outcome of what this commission would actually be, and you can't say exactly when you'd be able to deliver 40% reductions across the board. How is that not a gimmick?
No, on the contrary, what we're doing is telling the Commission that 40% reductions is what we want to see in Ontario. That's where we're starting. That's the job that they are going to do. They are going to look at where we are in comparison to other provinces. That 40% reduction is the goal, and we're giving them the time to look at how to achieve that goal best here in Ontario. And so we are looking at the different kinds of models that exist, and we're saying to folks, within 2 years, you will see the 40% reduction coming to your bills, because we're going to switch over the insurance industry, the system, if you will, to a model that works for you.
Okay, and just on another topic, the 8 MPPs who are charging the riding associations for a variety of expenses. The NDP, I looked through all 124. The NDP didn't come up with any similar expenses. What do you consider to be an appropriate thing to be able to charge to your riding association, and what is inappropriate for an MPP to be charging to a riding association?
I've been elected for a long time. I don't ever recall ever charging anything to my riding association as an MPP. My riding association will hold nomination meetings, for example. They'll hold annual general meetings. They'll do public things that are not part of government, but a part of politics. And the executive decides, the executive puts motions forward, and they determine what it is that they do in the community. But I, as an MPP, don't charge things, and never have, and never even have thought of charging things to my riding association.
Next question comes from Prabjot Suhal from Red FM.
Good morning, Ms. Horwath. Many people in Peel actually support the highways. We've heard from our listeners there's an overwhelming support in this region. So how do you plan to impress upon something that could be ecologically or environmentally harmful but is very popular? How do you plan to do that?
Well, I have to say that the Ford government is in it for their buddies. That's what they've always done. They work for their buddies, and their buddies get everything that they ask for, and we're the ones that pay the price. And it's going to be the same for the highways. 413 and the Bradford bypass are going to take all of the capital dollars for transit or for transportation and spend it on these huge highways to mansions that nobody can afford. There are lots of needs that need to be met in our communities. We need to absolutely make infrastructure improvements in existing highways, make sure that the safety of highways is addressed, make sure that we're building our public transportation systems and making them more affordable for folks. But paving over farmland and paving over wetlands and conservation areas and cutting into the green belt for more highways that are going to spew more greenhouse gas emissions is the wrong way. It's the wrong way. The people that are most happy about it are Doug Ford's developer buddies. That's who's most happy about this, because it lines their pockets in a significant way, and you can trace that relationship to the donations that the Conservative Party gets. Conservatives, they're in it for their buddies, and they're in it for themselves, as we've seen, and I think people just deserve so much better than that. And I say again to Ontarians, there's a lot at stake in this election, a lot at stake. Think about our healthcare system and how badly funded it has been for many, many years, leaving it vulnerable to tragedies that occurred during COVID-19. The same with long-term care. We need a government that's working for everyday people, working to fix the things that COVID has shown us are broken, working to fix the things that Liberals and Conservatives have ignored for years and years, going back and forth between Conservatives and Liberals that never fix the things that are most important to you, the things that matter to you and your family. I think it's time that that folks have an opportunity to vote for a premier that's always working for you, not for their buddies.
Did you have a follow-up question? Okay. So we'll take one more question from Zoom from Uday Rana from Globe and Mail.
Hi, Uday.
Hi, Ms. Horwath. My question is about healthcare in Brampton. Brampton is a city of 700,000 people with 1.5 fully functional hospitals. What is your plan with the NDP to change that?
Our plan is finally giving Brampton what it deserves in terms of hospital care. We know that Brampton Civic has had hallway medicine for a very long time. It was one of the ground zero communities when it came to hallway medicine, and I've been here many times talking to Bramptonians about their lack of hospital service. Don't get me wrong, Brampton Civic does a great job, and the people there do great work to try to meet the needs of Bramptonians, but there's just not enough beds, and there's not enough emergency capacity, so we'll put into place the commitment that's been made many times but not followed up on by both Liberals and Conservatives to make sure that Peel Memorial is a fully functioning hospital. I think you called it 1.5 hospitals. I don't know if Peel Memorial is even considered a half a hospital at this point. We will make sure it's a full emergency ward, acute care beds, over 800 beds is what the council identified they need, but there's nowhere near that, of course, and they're not acute care beds with the Doug Ford plan. So we will make that commitment, but we'll also build a third hospital in Brampton. I'm from Hamilton. Our communities, my community is actually a little bit smaller in population than Brampton. We have 3 hospitals, and we have a children's hospital. So those 3 things for sure: the existing hospital, the Peel Memorial made into a full hospital, a third hospital, and a cancer care center. I mean, that's something that's also been identified. Is a cancer care center is needed in Brampton, and we've made that commitment as well.
My follow-up question is regarding Mr. Ford's plan, because he's also said that he's willing to expand Peel Memorial. How is his plan different from yours in that case?
His plan is he already backtracked on it once. That's the difference. He makes these announcements, but he had 4 years, and now he's making more announcements. That's not good enough. And he did promise an emergency ward, but his latest plan doesn't include a 24/7 emergency department, and it doesn't include the acute care beds that the community needs. Our plan does include that, as well as the third hospital, which is also a difference, as well as the cancer center, which I believe is also a difference.
That's all we have time for, so I'll turn it back to you, Andrea.
Thanks, everybody. I have to say I'm very excited about this announcement because it will make a big difference in people's pocketbooks. It'll relieve the financial pressure, make life more affordable, and finally bring a fair auto insurance system to Ontario so that everywhere in Ontario, rates will go down by an average 40%. That's what our plan does, but it also takes away the discrimination that's been happening in communities like Brampton, like Scarborough, and others, where your rates have been dependent on your or impacted by your postal code as opposed to your driving record. So immediate ban on increases for 18 months, immediate ban on postal code discrimination, and then we'll make sure that we develop an insurance system here in Ontario that reduces the costs for everyday people and provides the kind of insurance that you need. Thanks, everybody. It's exciting, eh?
Great job. Yeah, it's exciting news for Brampton.